Hi there, my name is Gabby and today I'll be doing a brief presentation showcasing my journey through the module this term and discussing some of the briefs I've done, the ideas behind everything, feedback and how I feel about the work I've done so far. First, I'm going to talk a bit about just my general feelings on like the whole module. I'll be talking a bit about what I did at the start of the module and a little bit after that. I'll be giving a bit of a rundown about everything, what I started with as an introduction, and discussing how I progressed in general with my animation skills through critique and experimentation. During this module, I feel that I've been able to grasp some of the fundamentals of animation, such as timing and spacing, squash and stretch, and anticipation. I've also learnt more about shape theory regarding character design. I've been able to create more fluid and imaginative characters and animations, though that is what I show a bit more towards the end of this presentation. I've experimented a bit outside of the brief, pushing what I've learned during workshops to further my understanding of what I had learned during said workshops, and to try and use the critique from my brief to work before my next animation. I feel that I've progressed a lot in my animation skills from this module, though I definitely still need to keep improving as I still have a long way to go. This is a couple of what I'd done on my first brief. My first attempt, I was trying out timing and spacing for the first time, and this was also the first ever animation I'd done for this term. Okay, I was definitely trying to do some timing in there, I promise, but it doesn't seem to. You can't see it as well. The spacing also is very off, and not to mention that I really struggled with trying to figure out how many frames I wanted it to be on. However, I still feel I was able to learn a lot from this animation and just making it alone because of the critique and feedback that I'd got. It helped me basically make everything else after this. It helped me understand where I was going wrong and what I could do to fix it, really. But in particular, I don't think I was able to capture the timing and spacing quite right. The timing especially seems off, but I had a lot of fun making it. And as I said, I learned a lot from it into something I would try to improve on in my future animations. In my experimentation video, you can see the improvement. I feel that you can see it anyway, other than the fact that I uploaded it correctly. The frames are smoother. The animation is legible. You can actually see what's going on and understand it without struggling. Though I wasn't exactly following the timing and spacing correctly in terms of easing ins and easing outs, as it was just me messing around trying to learn from what I'd failed to do in my first brief. I feel like I was able to learn a lot from said brief and also use that to improve during this animation itself. I tried to be more creative with the movement, and I think I was able to capture it quite well in this video. Yeah, it helped me figure out where I was going wrong and allowed me to improve on it. These are stop motion animations, and I use the software Drag and Frame to make them. In the future, I'd like to experiment and continue using stop motion, as I feel it allows for like a lot more creativity than it would with 2D hand-drawn animation. I feel like I feel like I have a bit more creativity in terms of not having to struggle too much about how something should look drawn. I don't have to worry too much about it looking realistic or looking normal if I'm not looking for realism. I really enjoyed this part of the module because I felt like it was a really good start into animation in general, and it gave me a lot to improve on just based off of the first animation. It gave me a lot to improve on. All of the videos shown in this presentation are available on my OneNote or on my YouTube channel that you can find following the videos links, as I know that Team Streams doesn't always capture videos quite well. Here is one of the last animations I did for this brief. It's probably my favorite one that I've done because of how realistic it looks. For this task, we were asked to make a realistic bouncing ball or a realistic dropped ball. I did two versions of this. One version without critique and being my first version, and I made the ball too bouncy. This is the second version where I basically changed some of the cutouts and made the ball look a bit more like a football. I really like how I used smear frames in this, which was something that I'd also this is something that I'd experimented with because I don't think before this we'd done smear frames. I feel like that I was able to show the ball off in this uh, animation and made it look quite realistic, although I still feel it's a bit more bouncy than it needs to be. With just a term's worth of work, my understanding of animation has developed the most out of my skills, and I'm now able to do more than just make simple looping gifs, although you won't see that until the end. I feel I'm able to personify and add weight to my movement within animations, as well as make said animations look and feel more like how I want to portray them. Looking at the work of peers and animators has also helped in my understanding and has allowed me to gather critique as I would then use to both improve and learn more about animation. I found this module both fun and challenging because I've never been able to do things I've struggled with or have been able to do before, such as making walking cycles, which is something that we did more towards the end of this term. And I feel like I've been able to experiment a lot using the skills I've learned. I remember, like I said, I struggled with spacing at the beginning of this module and just struggled with stop motion. I remember because of just the timing and spacing. I never had done that before, at least to the degree of it looking good and making animations fluid. Expanding a bit more on my struggles for my sound animations in particular, which was another brief that we had been set. I was tasked to animate shapes to the sound of cartoon noises and realistic sounds such as a rolling ball. I found this really difficult to do as had to learn a bit more of new software, Adobe Premiere Pro, which I found hard to use to begin with because I felt there wasn't too much on the actual software itself to tell you what you could do, and figuring out things as well made it harder in general. Though the workshop that tutors put on really helped with just figuring out Premiere Pro. I found it hard to animate and sync the sounds up correctly, even after making deep sheets for them. But I also struggled in some realism aspects of the animations too, such as making a jelly cube look like a jelly and making it splash in a way a jelly cube would splash, which was one of my animations that I found really hard to make, and one of the animations that I still feel doesn't really work that well. Um, I also struggled with my 2D into 3D animations, partly because I had to include sound, but also because I had to I struggled a bit with the stop motion aspects, as I hadn't worked with stop motion as much as I had worked in 2D. So I felt that my 2D animations looked better, and that made the entire animation seem jarring. I also feel that I could have spent more time on the stop motion aspects of the animation, as I feel I could have made it more fluid or easier to read from a storyline standpoint. These are all issues that I want to fix when it comes to future animations that mix both 2D and 3D media together, as I want to improve on those skills. I can't show these animations on the presentation because Teams struggles with showcasing present sound and videos together. I noticed that it skips a few frames, but they are available on my OneNote and YouTube. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about my concepting throughout this module. Throughout this module, I've mostly stuck to the brief, creating animations that followed what was being asked of me, and then using the knowledge of making animations for the first time, just basically can use them in the future, essentially. Whatever I've made, whatever mistakes I've made in the animation that I'd made first, I can improve on and also use um, to basically base my next animation on and primarily use that part of animation. So, for example, if I was struggling with squash and stretch, I would make another animation either for experimentation or for another brief and use a lot more squash and stretch or smear frames to keep track of both my progress of general knowledge and how I would recreate it in the future. I would note down everything that I did each workshop, um, uploading it to my YouTube channel, and like I said, putting it in my OneNote. But I can also look back on these animations for future reference and see how much I've improved over the years. As I learned to animate, I learned to understand more of the 12 principles of animation. and what they meant. The principles I mainly focused on were my timing and spacing, anticipation, slows and slow outs. Because without these, animations can become jumbled and hard to read, and they were very important to like have down essentially to know how to do that. Once I understood and used these principles with relative ease, I was able to have a bit more fun by adding exaggeration, follow throughs, pose to pose, and staging to my work, which could be found mostly in my two balls interaction animation, which I'll be showing in a second. I made a lot of plans before making some of my animations, such as making animatics and rough drafts of what I wanted my animation to be like, which again really helped with just like concepting in general and knowing what I wanted to do before I did it. Um, and then I finalized my animations based off of the concepts and ideas, using a lot of the feedback that I'd gathered from the final animation. Here is a storyboard that I made for one of my animations. I made this to help with understanding what the story of the animation in general would be, and to help with making the animatic, as it allowed me to use the frames in the storyboard as animatic frames. In general, I probably could have gone with less frames in the storyboard, but at the same time, the extra time that I'd spent on the storyboard meant less work with the animatic and less time drawing all the frames in general. I really enjoyed this aspect of the animation as it allowed me to think more about the story I wanted to portray, and it made it easier to animate the final animation. Here's my animatic and final animation. If they don't appear smooth on stream, just check them out on my OneNote. I really enjoyed making the animatic itself, as it took away a good portion of my time spent on animating, and it made animating easier. And I like the story that I was able to show through my storyboard and my animatic. I think it's quite a fun story, and I think, at least for the animatic, I feel like it fit the brief of having two balls of different consistencies and varieties interacting with each other, such as a big jelly ball or a small hard ball. Um, this is the final animation itself. I think it came out quite smooth, and I like how it came out in comparison to the animatic and the storyboard. However, this is the second version of their final animation, as there were some aspects that I needed to change and that I was suggested to tweak thanks to some critique from tutors and peers. Easier in the future, I could probably, in my animatic, I could note down or make more shorthands to make things easier to like prevent mistakes, such as like showing how fast or how much smear I wanted to add to an object, because I think that was a bit of a problem when it came to making the animation itself. I felt that I didn't know quite how fast things should move. Next, I'm going to be talking about more of the research aspect of making my animations, looking into artists and animators for inspiration. During this module, I've taken inspiration from a few different artists and animators, many of which we've watched during our Monday briefings or during show and tell. As briefs have been set, we've been given different animations and animators to look at in regards to our works, which I've always found really helpful, as many of them gave me ideas on storytelling for some of my animations, as well as giving me different mediums to look at and potentially working in the future. Um, in the future, I do plan on creating more artist research pages that tie in more to the work that I plan on making, linking my work and ideas to that of other artists, and drawing inspiration directly from their work, as it will help with idea generation for both current and future projects, as well as giving me multiple reference points when it comes to looking back and noting down on my work. Here are a couple of research points. One such animator in particular was Ainsley Henderson and his animation stems, which was one of the first animators that we were introduced to at the start of the module. I really liked how this animator slowly added more life and personality to their characters, especially throughout the animation, as they slowly begin to take over the video, which is what I really liked about it, especially when it went over the voiceover itself and seemed to just take control over everything. It's what got me into wanting to animate using stop motion, and while I now find it easier to animate in 2D, I still want to work and experiment further in stop motion for future projects. I also did some artist research of my own for my character design brief. though not strictly for the movement part of the animation itself, as I was trying to draw up different ideas for my characters. Doing this artist research really helped with the inspiration for my character, as I was able to use the color palette as a design idea for my own, and use a few other works from this artist as further inspiration for my final character design. The movement depicted in this art as well also helps me like add a bit more personality to my character and help me personify it. Finally, I'm going to talk a bit about how I handled feedback and peer review this term. Though I've already discussed this throughout the presentation, I thought it'd be good to go a little bit more into detail about it. With the vast majority, if not all of my work, I've received constructive criticism, as this has helped me greatly as I have been able to improve my animations at a faster rate, rather than rewatching them and spending the ludicrous amount of time trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Not one animation has not been peer or tutor assessed, allowing me to fix and note down my mistakes, which has helped me improve on both the work I was doing in the moment and for future work. I would create one version of the majority of my animations, then make another version using the feedback I'd gotten from the first, which resulted in the second animation either being more realistic or more fluid. The feedback aspects of this module and just general workflow has been incredibly helpful, and I think I would have struggled a lot without someone telling me what I could do to improve it. The workshops that I took part in also helped, as not only did I further my animation skills, but it allowed me to ask for help and guidance in my animations, to help me see where I was going wrong and to help me improve. All in all, this module has been incredibly helpful and insightful, and I think I've improved on what I used to be able to do before this module. I'm happy with the progress I've made so far, and I'll continue to improve my animation skills and learn more about the animating process as a whole. To learn new ways to animate and to research more into animation itself, the animation industry, and animators to draw more reference and ideas from in the future. I hope this wasn't too long or confusing to listen to. Thank you for watching.